And welcome to this week's issue of Dr. Tech Show, live from Birmingham and Orkney, and we'll have a guest appearance later on that we'll tell you about. My name is Pauline Roach, and I am joining you from Birmingham, and it's kind of not a very nice day today here, but hopefully it'll improve during the hour we're all together. Swain, how are things with you?
Very well, thank you. I'm very well.
That's great. And John Popham, who's the usual main presenter, had to pop into the hospital this morning. But I think he might be on the line. Have we got you, John?
You have, Pauline. I'm surprisingly here. Not in the usual format, but I'm glad to be here. And just to explain that I probably will have to drop in and out at various points because I'm due to be travelling again fairly soon. But I'm with you at the moment, and it's good to be here.
Excellent, excellent. We're always delighted to have you, John, obviously, because it's your show. But we're pleased that you were feel happy for myself and Swain to drive the bus today. And we are also delighted to be joined by a guest from Kraydel today, Amer Fasihi. Amer, would you like to say hello?
Hi, Pauline. Hi, Swain. Hi, everyone. Really pleased to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Great. So we'll hear from Amer in a short while. We're just talking with the usual kind of introductions to our show. Today is the start of Children's Art Week. So if you look on Twitter, hashtag Children's Art Week, you'll see all kinds of things about the kind of art that children have been making, especially during lockdown. I think it's been a boon to some families to be able to encourage their children to use art, and I hope lots of schools have been welcoming that with their young people. Swain, is there anything else you'd like to chat about before we start chatting to Amer again?
No, I'm excited to hear about Kraydel. I think we should go straight to that.
Excellent. Right then, Amer, we'll kind of ask you a bit more, but ask you to introduce the product and tell us more about it, please.
Sure, Pauline. Should I give you a bit of background and how where it's all sort of come from, and then go into it?
Yes, please. That'd be great. Thank you.
So we're a healthcare startup. We're based in London and in Belfast. And so in terms of origin, we have a very similar arc to most startups in health, which is a very personal journey. It's almost always anchored in trying to help close family to sort of live healthier lives, or to address some of the challenges that people face in trying to bring a better quality of life to their friends and family. So for me, it's no different. My father suffered from congestive heart failure, and that was over a number of years. And my mother was really bearing the brunt of it, like most carers do. There's one person who is really the person who the sufferer leans on, and so my background is in tech, and I was working in various different. I worked in IBM, in GSK, and so I kind of thinking, well, there's got to be a better way of doing things. I can see where things are moving, and I can see technology is coming to bear. I can't understand why it works this way. And everybody who puts a startup together does it in this space in healthcare anyway, because they face a problem, and there's just a better way of doing things. So I set up my first company called Keros, which we then moved into Kraydel in 2018. And Paul Moorhead, who's the founder of Kraydel, he also was facing the same issues with his mother. Wasn't suffering necessarily from a disease like my dad, but she was getting older. She wanted to live independently, like we all want to, maintain good quality of life. He worked in BT, in Intel, various different places, was a real gadget guy, and started to think about ways that he could put some of his experiences to play. Our paths crossed in 2018, and we decided to and so that's when I decided to join with Paul and try and address the issues that we're facing.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a very personal journey, and I think that's really where the momentum for some of this comes from, right? That that it's not just you suffering from this problem. There are so many other people who must be facing similar issues, and you want to make an impact. You want to help them.
It's very refreshing to hear from a tech company that starts with the problem, because so many times in our experience, tech companies think, oh, here's something shiny, where's the problem? Whereas
Yeah.
you've come at it from the angle of, you know, there is a problem. How can we use technology to address that? Which is
That's right.
wonderful.
That's right. I mean, you know, both. So Paul, myself, and there's Rupinder with the kind of founders, and then Ariane is the CTO of the company. He joined from another company as well, Nimbus, which is also rolled in, and we've all got this shared vision of give something. Don't treat people because they're getting older differently, or you know, don't assume that there's an issue that they're faced with. Treat them like any other consumer is treated. Make a user-centered product, user-centered solution, and then everything else will follow. And hopefully that's what we're trying to do.
Excellent, excellent. I was listening to the radio this morning before the show, and I hear that women, especially women of an older age, are actually more likely to be gamers now than before. And so I think it's good to not assume, not like you say, not make assumptions about people's ability or interest, but assume that they want to be connected. And that was John's premise for this, or is John's premise for this show. You know, it's about combating isolation and loneliness, and it sounds like your product might certainly help to address that.
Well, that's certainly the area, Pauline. One of the things that that we're really keen on is the concept of resilience. And you know, so I'm sure you know your audience has read lots of different books, but this is one of the concepts that came through was around resilience being a major risk factor towards either having a poor quality of life, or it being the major reason why people have a good quality of life. And there were three components basically of this concept, right? So one was the variety of social connections and their frequency. So how isolated, and we hear so much about loneliness in the news. So social connectivity is a very important element of it. A second part is having an interest, right? So rather than whenever anyone talks to you about how you are, you start talking about how your shoulder's hurting, or you went, you know, you got something done on your knee. You've actually got an outside interest. It may be stamps, it may be steam engines, it may be classical poetry, whatever. There's an interest that you've got, and that's what's driving a growth in your social connections. And the third one is a positive outlook on life. Right, so people who, and there've been lots of studies on this, you know, very, very extensive, where they've really tried to quantify and break these things down. And what we're trying to do in Kraydel is trying to bring these three concepts together and deliver those to an audience who may or may not be older adults, right? But if we can deliver something around those three concepts, around this, and build up people's resilience, this concept of health span and a much better quality of life over the period, you know, post-retirement, people are living 30, 40 years. That's a whole career in itself. And why shouldn't people be getting more qualifications, better certifications, starting second, third, fourth careers? That's what we're trying to do.
Great ambition. Would you like to share your screen and show us a bit more about the product?
Yeah, so I'm going to go to our website and I'll talk about the product from there. Do tell me, can you see it?
Yes, I can see it now, thanks.
Fantastic. So, so I'll describe a little bit of so what we've created is a mix of hardware and software. So I'll describe a little bit about how the product is set up, and you can see the components there, and then talk a little bit about how people can interact with it. And then that hopefully will lead us to the point that we're really, really pleased with Konnect and this whole sort of user-centered thing that we've made. So as you said, Pauline, we're Kraydel, and we're launching our new system. It's called Konnect, and you can see it here. So it's basically got three components of hardware. There's a processing unit here, which is like basically a cable TV set-top box. Right? So very, very similar in size and shape to a Sky Q box, for example. You have a hub that sits on top of the TV, and it's very, very easily mounted on the TV. And then there's the remote control. Now, I'm going to take you to a picture here. So I just go there and take you to this graphic. So what we've got is a an interface. And I'm just trying to find, yes, here we are. Can you see the interface there? So you've got the processor unit, which is connected to the wall socket, and then that connects to the TV. Sensor hub plugs into the back of the processor unit, and you've got the remote control. It's very, very simple to set up. And you can see on the remote control, there is a green button, which corresponds to this yes, and a blue button that corresponds to no. And the bit that we're proudest of is there is no training required to use Konnect, right? As long as you can read what's on the screen, in other words, if you can read subtitles and comprehend what they're asking you or what they're saying, you can use the system. Now, you know, there's been so much talk over the last, 5-10 years about IT skills for older people. We think that's wrong, actually. We don't see why that is a requirement. After all, you can see 3-year-olds, 2-year-olds starting using YouTube or whatever. They don't have IT skills for 2-year-olds. They're no one teaching them what to do. They just get on with it, right? Because there's something there that they want to engage with, and it's very easy to do. What we've recognized in the way that we've designed our product is, you know, we had lots of focus groups and extensive discussions with prospective users, is that it's not an IT skills issue. It's not that people don't have capabilities to use the technology. Sometimes the physiology doesn't allow it. As people get older, the tips of the fingers become drier. So activating smart screens becomes a hassle. You can't activate a smart screen if there's no capacitance being induced. So so people end up tapping apps multiple times, and you know, a grandchild doesn't have to do that. 2-year-old's not doing that. So why do they have to? Or there may be a slight tremor in the finger, and that ends up hitting the wrong app. This is nothing to do with understanding how systems work. This is purely to do with bad design on behalf of the systems. And so what we've done is we've taken on the biggest, brightest screen and the bit of technology that people are most familiar with, their own TVs. So these don't have to be smart TVs. These don't have to be internet-enabled TVs. As long as they have an HDMI port available, we can use it. All the clever bits and pieces, all the computing bits and pieces are in this set-top box. The way our user engages is just going to be through this remote control and the screen. And the minute that you put the hub on top of the TV, you forget about it. So it's a very, very simple system to engage with. We've designed it around our users. And we've done it in a way that people can adopt it. And in fact, when we installed it in one of our, and it was a prototype that we installed with one of our early users, she asked the installation, the lady whose house we were installing it in, asked our engineer if he could teach her how to use it. His response was, look, I'm not going to be here tomorrow, so I suggest you just use it, and gave her the remote. And within about 20 seconds, she was making a video call.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's really, really straightforward.
I'm interested in the colors you've used there, actually, because normally you would expect yes to be green, but the no to be red. Why is it blue?
Because our focus group told us that red is danger.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And that makes people reluctant to engage with the system.
Okay.
It's too strong a signal, right?
So
as long as green is there, that's fine. They know which way to go if they want something, but they shouldn't be inhibited from hitting something red, even subliminally. You know, these are those tiny nudges.
That's absolutely fascinating. So you've
I
avoided
think that's
red.
really interesting.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
John.
sorry, I think that's really interesting. I mean, I've come across a number of older computer users who have been completely flummoxed by Microsoft error messages, particularly the one that says fatal error. And they have I've come across a number of people who have abandoned their computer because it had a fatal error message, because they thought that means that the whole thing is completely kaput.
Yeah.
And I said to them, well, if you click OK, it goes away. But I think you're right. That's really good. That's very good insight, really. That red is danger, and people are scared of danger.
That use of the word fatal
exactly.
is a design issue. Why are you using that? There's no need. So it's these kinds of tiny nudges that that we're trying to build, and it'll become we'll become more sophisticated at this. But that's where we're starting. So I realized that what I've done is talked through the whole product and everything without actually saying what it is we do. Right. Our system is designed to reduce loneliness by one of those 3 components of resilience I talked about: social connectivity. We make video calling with friends and family through your existing TV an extremely easy thing to do. We are Zoom for the TV, if that's the way you want to see it, right? And why have we done that? Well, the TV is the most familiar bit of tech in anybody's home, but actually there's a bigger thing here. Nobody has a smartphone room, and nobody has a tablet room, right? Everybody has a TV room. Everybody. What does that mean, actually? It means that you've got sofas, which are configured around this screen. You've got your favorite chair. The room is at the right temperature. You've got a way of being in that room, which is when you're most comfortable, right? Where you are actually, that's the central part of your nest. And that's what we believe social connection between friends and family needs. What we're doing right now is more of a professional kind of interaction, isn't it? And so you use your computer, you use your laptop or your tablet, and you talk in that way, and it's appropriate for that kind of communication. But this isn't appropriate for, or it's not the best way of communicating with friends and family in an intimate, engaged, casual way. That's what we think the TV room is good for. You're sitting back, you may have your feet up, you're relaxed, you can have a proper conversation. So what we've got is a really, really simple way of making video calls. This hub has, in the center of it, you can see that dark circle there, that's the video camera. My mum has one of these installed in her home. I call from my phone using the Connect app. I talk to her through my phone, and it'll come up on her TV, and she will very easily, when she's watching TV, there'll be a message comes up, Amer is calling, would you like to take the call? The chances are she's going to say no, but let's just suppose she's in a good mood and she's not upset with me. She might say yes, even if she's upset, to tell me off. And then we have the call, and what happens is when she hits yes, there's a shutter, a privacy shutter on this camera that moves away from the camera. You have the call. When the call finishes, the shutter goes back in front of the camera. So I
really like that feature. I think that'll be very because we'll go on to talk about the Connect use in other settings. But that sounds really good.
And that was one of the key points that we were aware of, that privacy is really important, but convenience is really important as well. And we know that there are other TV calling systems, but those ones, they've got manual shutters. So if I call mum and using one of those systems, for her to take the video call, she'd have to get out of the chair, move the shutter across, go back, sit down, hit yes. And if she wasn't annoyed before that, she will be annoyed after. Right? And if mum's listening to this, mum, I'm sorry, I'm not making you out to be an irritated, annoyed person. But there are design features that come into this, and it doesn't matter. It's regardless of age. You don't have to be an older adult to not want to get out the sofa to go and do something with the TV. We haven't been doing that since the mid-'80s when remote controls were invented, right? So,
and is there the option to take the call but not put it on video? Can you just do a voice call if you prefer?
We are working on that in this first release that we've got. It is just video calls, but yes, that's an obvious way to go, and just make it voice. One of our focus groups, actually, what happens is when it says would you like to receive the call, it has a question under there, which is, are you happy with your appearance? Right? So and that came out of our focus group, that they said, look, I just want to make sure to see what people can see before I take the call. So we do have that option. You hit yes, and then there's a feature in here, another tiny feature, which I think will make a big difference, which is we don't have window in window when you make a video call. So you know the way that we're running our Zoom call right now, where we can see ourselves on the screen. As humans, we naturally gravitate towards looking at ourselves, right? That's just normal. And whenever you do a video call on a large screen, people are often just looking in the bottom right-hand corner, even if the camera is on top of the TV. They're looking at the bottom right-hand corner. Because we don't have window in window, people only look at the thing that's moving, which is what's on their screen. And our hub, which sits on top of the TV, therefore captures them looking directly at the TV, and eye contact is then made with the recipient of the call, which changes the experience completely. So look, video calling is what we've got as the central part of it. Video calling through your TV, very, very easy system to engage with. But it's not just video calling through the TV. There are other systems that do that. We are taking a much more holistic view, and it's because of the journey we've been on with our respective, with Paul's parents, mine, Rapinder's, Ariane's, whoever. We were keen on also delivering some more value to family and friends, and that's peace of mind. So what we've done in this system, so you see these white boxes, these are LEDs, which basically change color when there's a call. Right, so they start blinking if there's a call coming and you don't want to take it, or they blink a different color if there's a message or a missed call or something like that. But what we've got on the sensor, what we've got on this hub is a series of sensors which also monitor well-being in the room. So physical movement, temperature, sound, this is all measured separately, right? So for my mother to accept this in her home, she's going to want to have something which makes her life easier, right? So that's the video calling and the photo sharing and videos and things like that I can share. Basically WhatsApp for the TV. So I can share photos and videos onto her TV and she can see that and be part of the whole family group, right? So that's why she gets it into her home. The main reason that I'm probably going to pay for it as her son is because it gives me peace of mind that I know that mum's up and about, and I know that the room is heated to the right temperature and she's happy. So there's a well-being element that we've brought into this, and that's where we're totally differentiated from any other product on the market at the moment. That we have video calling through the TV, that sets us quite far apart from other companies. There are some large tech companies that have recently launched something for the TV, but they've got their own design flaws. But what really sets us apart is this whole peace of mind thing around the sensors and that we've built in as well.
So the family can monitor the person who has the device. What are the permissions for that? What's the person who has the device have to agree to? Yeah.
It's just like any other, it's the same kinds of consents and permissions that any other sensor system requires, right? That there's that that data is being gathered and that it's being stored somewhere. For us, the way that we set it up is the user profiles are stored on the Amazon cloud. So there's a huge amount of security, and we have a very a very strong security system that we've designed specifically for this, so that the data is all encrypted in transit and at rest, and it's stored in a very secure way. But the permissions are kind of standard that they have. And so what we're doing is we're using, we can monitor physical movement, the use of the remote control, and some of the major physical metric, the environmental metrics in the TV room, specifically, obviously in the TV room. But what where we've gone is actually integrated a whole range of other devices into the system as well. And we actually believe that we've now got one of the broadest IoT platforms that are currently available. So we
IoT, can you explain that for people who might know what it is, Amer?
So that's Internet of Things. So things like Bluetooth sensors that you have around the home that monitor, say, physical movement in one of the rooms, or you can buy nowadays in B&Q and various other hardware shops, you can get these plugs that the Bluetooth plugs that you plug into wall sockets, and then you can plug the kettle into those, and it monitors when a kettle is being switched on.
Yeah.
So our system can capture that data, right?
Great. Amer, we've had a question from somebody on the YouTube chat asking about the cost, and this is something we discussed earlier. So can you clearly explain what the cost of these units are, please?
Yeah, sure. So right now, we're selling to businesses. We're at a fairly early stage in the cycle. So we're making the system available to organizations like the NHS, like home care organizations, councils, for them to deploy.
Which makes me think it's going to be expensive.
However, so most people are launching very expensive systems into the market because they just want to sell more and more devices. We've taken the complete opposite view. We know that these systems are extremely useful and they're going to bring families closer together, and we don't want cost to be the barrier. So when we do our consumer, when we make a consumer product available, it will come in at £24.99 per month, right?
£4.99, to be clear.
£24.99, yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, like I say, we don't want cost to be a reason that people can't engage and stay in touch with their friends and family, keep the loved ones close. Look, you can see on this picture that we've got here, there's no advertising, and we're not going to do that. We're not a Facebook or an Amazon or whatever, right? Where we're generating money from every angle. We want the reason that we have a monthly subscription, and by the way, there's no hardware charge either, right? So we'll go for a minimum 6-month contract period, so that obviously our costs can all be covered. But we want to keep the interface really clean. We want lots of we want to create an ecosystem within which people can start consuming or start getting educational courses, for example, or physiotherapy or nutrition. So we want to keep the cost of the system very low, so the maximum number of people can engage. So
that cost is a monthly subscription, just to be clear. It's not a one-off cost. Yeah. And so they get the kit with that subscription. They get the box, the unit on top, and the zapper, or whatever you call the remote. The remote. Yeah. Okay. And how is it delivered practically?
Well, it's a box that's about that wide, that big, that thin, and it's just like you receive any Amazon deliveries, right? It's very straightforward.
Okay, so who's subscribing at the moment, Amer, and what are your ambitions for that?
Well, right now, as I say, we're working with organizations to begin with, so we can really set it up and iron it all out. We're working very closely with the NHS. We're very, very fortunate to be in a position to work there. And I can show you, actually, we put an isolation type of offering together where we've integrated an oximeter that monitors oxygen levels in the blood it's a COVID-19 isolation pack, actually, that's an advanced warning system where you can monitor oxygen in the blood just using the normal clip-on oximeters that are Bluetooth integrated with our system, a thermometer that's also Bluetooth, so they can send the data, and people can then stay in touch with friends and family if they have to isolate for whatever reason, and it's all sort of fairly straightforward in terms of keeping people safe, reducing the pressure on the system, which is why the NHS really likes us, because it means that, in this we're going through the pandemic, to keep healthcare workers safe, to keep the patient safe. To reduce physical contact is the key bit, but that doesn't mean that you need to eliminate engagement or you need to induce loneliness. We think that we can address those, and still keep people safe and happy. So we're working with the NHS, and we're really, really pleased. And with home care organisations and councils, and we're really pleased to be working with a few charities as well. So so that's you know, it's kind of getting to a point where we have a number of different installations and deployments, so that we're learning a lot about what our users.
I'm particularly interested in the charity angle, Amer. If you can say a bit more about which charities, if you're able to. Yes,
so we're working with an organisation. We've got 3 charities that we're working with. One is it's a charity called PSPA, and it looks up, so it addresses, it's a muscle, PSP is a muscle wastage disease, and the system is being used there to support the carers of the people who are suffering from the disease, as well as the sufferers themselves, and to ensure that they stay in touch with friends and family. So PSPA is one. A second is Re-Engage, which is a charity that had volunteers actually going to visit people who are so frail they can't actually leave their homes. And so to avoid them being lonely through that isolation, the volunteers would be visiting them. And so Re-Engage is installing some of these to maintain that level of contact between the volunteers and the older adults. And the third one is with the Alzheimer's Society. We recently won their innovation competition, and so they're working with us to co-develop the system and make sure that it's appropriate for their users, and then ultimately to support its rollout.
Yeah, because I understand that Konnect is going to be used not just for making these video calls, but actually delivering services. So have you got a screen on your website that talks more about that?
So we're working with a range of different business partners, as we said. Oops, is there some sound in the background?
Some music. I can hear some music somewhere. No.
No idea, actually.
There's not music on your website, no?
No, it's not. There we go. Has that helped?
Yeah.
It's great. Okay. So so we're working with a range of different organizations to make it available in different ways. And so you know, some are working to address social isolation, some are deploying it, so the NHS is around hospital admissions, but also to make video consultations available through people's TVs. And some home care organizations are looking at it from the point of view of improving or increasing the number of care visits that they make.
Sounds good. Another question from a watcher on YouTube. Could a advertising model make it lower cost or no cost to the end user? Have you considered that?
We have. That's a really good question. We have been considering that, and for now we want to keep the interface as clean as possible. Some of the feedback that we've been getting from our user groups are around how easy and simple it is to use. And remember, the users aren't just the older adults; it's also their families who. And there's a sense of simplicity around the system at the moment. But we are looking at ways of reducing the cost constantly, and so we're very hesitant to bring on additional revenue streams to reduce that cost. We think that we should design the system in a way that it becomes cheaper and cheaper. So we are looking to reduce the cost. Ultimately, we'd like to bring it down to something like Netflix. So let's see where we can go with that.
Sounds really good. Swain, you've been very quiet so far. Have you got any questions you can think of for Amer? Because I'm fascinated with it, but you must have some questions as well, or a question.
Are you at the stage, Amer, and it's a fascinating product that you're showing us. Are you at the stage where you can kind of feedback from where it's been in use for a while in a particular setting, or?
Yeah, sure. So we've been deploying the system quite widely, but there's a group that we've been working with that's rural, based in various different villages around Lancashire, and we've been getting fascinating and really positive feedback from that group. So these are generally people, older adults, who are either living by themselves or with their spouse. They are mobility limited to an extent, so don't drive an awful lot and therefore stay in the village that they're living in. They have a family dispersed around the country and globally. And the feedback has just, it's so encouraging. We've designed a system to try and reduce the loneliness and isolation that people have, to try and bring families like our own families closer together, and to actually hear that happening from people is so encouraging. It's it's why you set the business up, and so ease of use. So how quickly people are able to adopt and adapt to the system. And I think the thing that people are going to find most surprising when they use this, and it's a big pushback we get from a lot of people as well, right? Which is, well, do you really think that people are going to use the TV for video calling when you've got the smartphone or you've got tablets or PCs? Why do you think people will use the TV? And the most surprising thing is the feedback that's come back to us from our user groups about how engaging it is to use the TV, because it's just, it's your posture. You're sitting on your armchair and you can just, and so a really endearing quote was from a lady's daughter who lives in Australia. She's been calling her mum, and she's saying, it's just like we're in the same room because the screen is so big. I can see, it's not just me seeing mum's face. I can get a sense of her well-being, the house, that, it just feels so much more engaging. And that's what we believe is going to be the big change here, is the use of the TV as an additional channel. We're not trying to replace the smartphone or the tablet or whatever, those or the PC, they've all got their own places. The one thing that's not being used is the TV, and that's what we're trying to, and that's where we think we can go with this. So it's that's the feedback that's coming back to us. It's usability, the experience of the callers, and how much closer families. So one of our users, Anne, she recorded for us a video of her grandchildren, I think there were 4 or 5 of them in an orchestra. So they were all playing their different instruments on their side. And poor thing, she was isolating, so she could only see them through the TV. But she said that because it's on the big screen, I can see them all. It's just so much more entertaining. So that that's where it makes the big difference.
And have you had any issues about lag or kind of the connection dropping?
Of course, and that's just the internet, right? What can you do about that? Maybe depending on how successful Kraydel becomes, we can repair the internet, but that's not that's on the long-term plan. But look, as connectivity improves with better bandwidth, with fiber optic getting out to people's homes, I'm hoping that this is going to become a rarer thing. It's not something that's commonly being reported, but clearly, I mean, it happens in this. It's happening in this call. It happens everywhere.
Yeah, can I just, sorry, I had to drop out and rejoin using a different device because I've had a few issues at my end. Can I ask you, Amer? I've actually seen the earlier version in operation in Lancashire, as you say, on the Barn network, and I was impressed.
Yeah.
Now, firstly, I apologise if somebody's asked this question because I've been away for a little bit, and secondly, I should have known this when I saw it in action, but what's the process for when a call comes in for switching to the different HDMI channel? Because I think what I've seen in the past is that people have had devices like this, but they're not comfortable changing from one HDMI channel to another. So does it do it automatically?
John, I'm so pleased you asked us that. Yes, it does it automatically. That was one of the main points that I wanted to raise earlier on. The whole system is user-centered, right? So I think it's got very little to do with the capability of changing from HDMI sources. You can use the Kindle, the Amazon Fire Sticks and all this. They do automatic TV takeover, and those aren't targeted on older adults themselves. It's for everybody. It's a convenient thing, right? So so we've got automatic TV takeover. So a call comes in, it will take over the TV. Right, so it will interrupt the program. Sorry, folks. I know that everybody's going to push back on that one and say, "Oh, isn't that going to get irritating?" It might do, we'll work on solutions over the course of the system. But for now, it just takes over the TV. You saw on the remote control, there's that heart button. Hit the heart button, take the call. And then once that call is finished, it will automatically go back. So you don't actually, it'll go back to a preset HDMI. So you don't actually have to do that switching. Now, we've done it in a way that it works for most TVs. So LG, Sony, Samsung, you know, the large brands we've done. But I need to warn everybody that, you know, that we haven't done it for every TV yet. And there are a vast number of brands which sit in the tail of that. But we've got about 90–95% coverage for most of the marketed models.
That's a great relief, because I can tell you, John and Amer and Swain, my mother, when she kind of inadvertently presses the source button on her remote and she can't get her program, her usual channels, it's the end of the world for her, you know.
Yeah.
So the fact that this doesn't interfere would be a big plus for her.
Yeah, and you know, it's very easy to install as well. So it may not be appropriate. I know my mum would have a problem installing it herself, but you know, if I can go over and it'll take me about 4 or 5 minutes to just get the thing up and running. It's very straightforward.
Well, my mother, just to say again, if it changes, it's a real problem. She has to get the neighbours in or call out her. You know, she feels so worried about it. So it would be great. It's great to know that that's not going to be a problem. Yeah.
Not at all. It may be, like as I say, we haven't got complete coverage for every TV at the moment. We're working towards it.
Yeah, great.
And I think the other thing about all this is that, as you say, Amer, is that, you know, as people questioned why you would use the TV, but particularly when you're talking with people who are not used to using the different kinds of tech like we are, the TV is the tech that they have mastered. Right. So why not just add something to that tech that they're comfortable with? You know, they're used to seeing people on a TV screen, so add the ability for them to see people who they know on the TV screen and to interact with those people. For me, it's just common sense.
It's a no-brainer, right? It isn't absolutely. That's why we can't understand. Like when we're talking to, you know, you talk to various different people that we who are interested in Kraydel or trying to work out how to, and this is the pushback they give us. Oh, but do you really think the TV is it's the one device that everybody who's got a home uses, right? So we're very much on. Very glad to hear that, John. Absolutely.
Well, I think a lot of people got carried away with this idea that the TV is its history, and people are watching things on all kinds of different screens, and of course they are. But there is a particular demographic which, you know, probably took some time to master that particular technology in the first place, and that's the one they're going to stick with. Absolutely. They're not going to be running around with tablets and phones and or other kinds of devices.
I'm interested, Amer, that your other base is in Belfast. Has there been a demand in Ireland for this kind of technology? I mean, I know there's the workforce who have a technical education now more than in some other countries. I'm interested why the Belfast connection.
It's Paul. So Paul is from Northern Ireland, lives in Belfast. His mother lives there. So when he first set up Kraydel, so the company itself was set up in 2016. So that's why it has a Belfast base. But we're very lucky, you know. Belfast is a great location. There's an excellent pool of talent there for us, and you know, we got our operations base there.
Yeah, I'm interested from the because my work is in the tech for good field generally, so this is of great interest, and Dublin has a tech for good network, and I think they'd be very interested to hear about this. So if you're not already in touch with them, I think maybe we can extend the contacts in our networks.
Thank you so much, Pauline. We will take you up on that.
Great. I think unless anybody's got any more questions, Amer, we've probably come to the end of this slot, but it's been really fascinating, and I think we'll all be watching avidly to see how this develops.
Thank you so much for the invitation, for the opportunity to come and talk about it. As you can hear, I can drone on about this for hours. Okay, but we'd love feedback, and you know. We're in it to make a change for people. We think things can be better. We think that that families can be, and I think this is one of the things that we found during lockdown, right? Is the networks, the social connectivity is so important. So so thanks for the support, and we do hope that you know, it's going to help us make it successful.
Thanks very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Amer. That's been really good. Thank you.
So feel free to stay with us, or I know you have other work to get on to.
Well, so I'll put my camera off, but thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Great potential there, I think. And I'm especially delighted that they're working with charities, because you know there'll be some great opportunities there. The Alzheimer's Society is one of the ones I think that is developing good stuff around tech.
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to the question that we've talked about on previous shows. Really, is that the cost of co-producing something that is designed to a particular client base to the big tech companies who put something out which might or might not stick. And you know, I think we need to find ways of funding some of that co-production so that the devices can hit the market at a more reasonable price for people. Yeah. You know, and it looks to me it seems to me that is something that Kraydel is definitely looking at. So yeah, all power to their elbow on that one.
Absolutely. And you know, they're offering a 6-month subscription, so it's not, you know, you're not tied into a 2-year contract. So that's also a very good thing. No wonder the NHS and others like that are interested in it. So we've got about what, it's over 10 minutes left on the show. Is that right, Swain? Are you monitoring the the time?
We've got about 12 minutes, yes.
Okay, great. So so I'd like to just talk a bit about a show that I did last Friday in Sandwell, which I'm very proud about. Sandwell has a brilliant group called Sandwell Networkers Group, which meets every month, or you know, used to meet every month face to face in a venue in West Bromwich, and organizations, volunteer organizations, statutory organizations from around the area would kind of come together for a couple of hours on a Tuesday morning and drink tea and coffee, eat biscuits, and talk about whatever that, you know, they were doing and share information. And with lockdown, obviously they weren't able to do that, so they eventually in June they were able to organize a Zoom call so that, you know, everybody who wanted to kind of get together was able to do that, and they had about 30 of the members get together. And the other thing that they do on an annual basis is this Celebrate Sandwell event, and this was their 4th year of doing it. And the organizer, Richard, I think he had decided that because of lockdown, he couldn't see a way around you know, not having the celebration this year, and he was kind of in contact with people hoping that we'd be able to run it and the thing to be open, but of course they're not. So I suggested about 6 weeks ago, when he was still, you know, we were talking about it, I said, you know, maybe we could do something online. They have this private Facebook group, and so I had the idea that maybe a couple of the members could send in short videos about what they were doing, just to keep people updated, to mark the occasion. And that kind of snowballed. And so Richard wrote to all the members, and kind of we got a bit of a campaign going. And by last Wednesday or Thursday, there was something like 40 videos from organizations in the Sandwell area ready to be shown on the Facebook page. So Friday, most of Friday, from 9 o'clock in the morning until about just after 3, I was sitting here at my desk putting up videos on this on the Facebook page, interspersed with a live connection on Google Meet with Richard, to you know, to keep it like a radio show, to keep the channel open, and interspersing with cutaways to a Zoom channel where another group of people were doing musical interludes, and so we kind of interspersed the video showing with people could go live to a live Zoom connection. And it was great. It was very successful. I don't know what the numbers are like. You know, I don't imagine we had thousands of people watching, but we certainly had, you know, the interested people in Sandwell logging on. And I did it so that I could post like 3 or 4 links to kind of information about the next 3 or 4 videos that were coming up, so people would know that their slot was about to come up, and they could see themselves on screen, and they seemed to enjoy it. And I even did a Facebook Live in the last hour of the show, and invited one of the people who had been going to some of the Zoom connections and who had submitted a video herself to join us in what I call backstage, which is like this here.
Yes.
And she was delighted.
Sounds absolutely wonderful.
So it was really interesting and rewarding, and I'm hoping to write up more about it, because I think it was a learning experience for me and for Richard, certainly. I mean, he just couldn't have done it without my input, obviously, but I couldn't have done it without his networking and, you know, connections to local groups. So as a way of combating isolation, I think it was a big hit. And it's there on the event page of the Facebook group for members to go back to and see.
Is it there for anybody to see, Pauline? Because
Yes.
I'd be interested.
Well, no, it's not. You have to join the group, but
Right.
that's, you know, that's not a problem.
It's okay. That's okay. I did used to live in West Bromwich for a while, and my wife worked for Sandwell Council in the early 90s.
Excellent.
So I have a connection with Sandwell, so I may well join the group.
That'd be good. I mean, I'm trying to work out now how to make some of that what we did public, because, you know, people submitted videos hoping more people would see them. So you know, there's no problem, I think, with trying to make it more visible. I just haven't worked it out yet, because you can't convert a private Facebook group to a public one, because people submit things, you know, in the expectation of privacy. But this has a different flavor, and I thought the best thing would be to keep all the material on the event page, so that at least it's all in one place and people can go back to it. But if you've got any ideas about how now to convert that to a more available, you know, something I could put up on YouTube, for example, then I'd be very happy to think about that.
Okay. Well, we'll have a look at that. Have you finished that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, unless we've got anything else burning to talk about, I'll talk a little bit about my experience on this call, on this show, because I was.
Sounds like a good idea. How's it been for you, John, on your own show?
Well, marks out of 10.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's interesting. It's nice
to speaker view so we can see you.
It's nice to be able to take a back seat for a while, but because I only had the 2 devices with me, my phone and and my Chromebook, which I'd taken with me on the off chance that I might be taken into hospital in the night. And what I have to say is, I've really been very happy with this Chromebook since I've had it for about a year or so. The thing is, I think it's very underpowered, and the problems I was having, I think, were down to I kept getting messages popping up on it saying that your CPU usage is excessive, and I think that's the problem with it. So it can't really cope, I don't think, with Zoom. And it's great that it's got it on it. I mean, the thing about, I think it goes back to about 3 or 4 years. The Chromebooks manufactured in the last 3 or 4 years will run Android apps as well. And so I can run Zoom on the Chromebook because Zoom has a plugin for the Chrome browser. So you can run that version of Zoom, or you can actually run the Android app on it. And I tried both of them, and both of them were struggling, which is why I ended up going back to my phone. And my phone told me about 5 minutes ago it's only got 20% battery left. So hopefully we'll make it to the end of the show.
Right.
But yeah, I think if you can afford a really expensive Chromebook with a lot of processing power, I think fabulous. But I think trying to do this on the one that I'm using, it obviously fell over, unfortunately.
Yeah, so battery power and processing power are 2 things that I can't really get around.
No, but I think they are wonderful things, Chromebooks. And Chris Conda, she just reacted to something on my Facebook page. I don't know if she's actually watching. If you're watching, Chris, hello. We've been talking about Barn, and Chris facilitated my visit to Barn last December when I saw the original Kraydel device in action and was very impressed by it. Yeah, and I can't see them having any connectivity issues there because all their volunteers have dug in their gigabit connections. If they have a connectivity problem, then the whole of the internet must be down, I think. And I have to say, hello, City Fibre. I've been posting particularly on Twitter, that at long last, City Fibre have been putting their gigabit connections in down my road, and they've been digging up the road. But for some reason, they came within 2 houses of me and then went across the road. So I
Don't take it personally, John.
I don't know whether they're deliberately missing me out. But if my friends at City Fibre are watching, please carry on down my road.
I would have gone. I think I wouldn't have been able to resist going out and dragging them into my house. You know, the opportunity.
Dear. How annoying!
I think they will get to me eventually. I hope they're not doing it deliberately.
John, you posted an invitation to Pete Morey from Amuri, about his blog about what do our COVID-19 online habits tell us about the digital skills that we need, which is a fascinating Twitter thread.
Yes.
Inspired by Ofcom's annual Online Nation report. So it would be great if Pete or somebody else from from that neck of the woods would join us. I'm just looking through the tweets right now and looking like at the Zoom, just for one thing, rising from just 659k users to 13 million by April. I mean, what platform was expecting that?
Well, no, and they obviously weren't, because they did
Yeah.
have quite a lot of problems caused by that expansion. And I had a social media conversation with some people about this the other day, and because somebody was saying, I keep hearing people complaining about Zoom, and what are they complaining about, because I don't see an issue. And then a lot of people piled in by saying, well, there were all these issues at the beginning of lockdown when they had this massive spike in users, and they weren't prepared for it. And some people are saying that they will never forgive them for it, because they should have been prepared for it. And the fact that Zoom had been going for quite a few years without tackling the security issues. But I think Zoom has tackled the security issues now, but a lot of people are saying that, well, we're not going to use them because they should never have been in that position in the first place.
Well, that's just impractical. That's not based on lack of knowledge of what people can expect. This was, they say you can't expect the unexpected. But this was completely off anybody's radar, no matter what government people say they predicted this in their blog posts or whatever. This was not expected.
Well, I think the point is that you should always have security built in, even if you've only got a small user base. But there we go. And the other thing in that report is TikTok, which has gone from 5.4 million to 12.9 million.
I know.
I never really used TikTok. I mean, TikTok. I used to play around with Vine, which I think was the predecessor to TikTok. But I have seen some stuff. I've not read the details, but I've seen some stuff recently saying that TikTok is basically malware, and if you install it on your device, it's going to rip all your information from you. So I've not really looked at the details of that, but there are some issues about TikTok as well. Yeah. So again, we need to be wary about these things. But
according to people reporting on potentially harmful online experiences as well, 81% of 12 to 15-year-olds and 62% of adults reporting this. So it'd be interesting to see what they mean by harmful online experiences. And I hope that wouldn't put people off. Pete gives a list of the kind of thing that's needed. And BT, like many other organizations, are doing tech stuff now. I mean, you see the advertising on television. High street banks are still offering to help people with the digital skills. Santander, for example, sorry to name check just one, but offering to make calls to people at home to help them with their isolation and stuff like that. So I think people are pivoting.
And we're almost out of time.
Okay.
So
well, thanks very much, Swain and John, for making a guest appearance on your own show.
Well, I'd like to thank both of you, Swain for doing the technical stuff and Pauline for doing the hosting.
It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you very much.
I really enjoyed it.
Yes. This may well be the same setup next week, because I do have a scheduled hospital appointment next week. Right. So we might be doing it like this again next week.
So I'll leave you, Pauline, to say goodbye, and then I'll play the theme music.
Great. Well, thanks again, as I said, to our co-presenters and to our guest Amer Fasihi from Kraydel, and we're looking forward to hearing more about that. and wish everybody who's watching the YouTube and who are listening to Hope Radio Brum in Birmingham to the Tech Talk on Tuesday nights, wish you well and look forward to seeing you again next week. Thanks very much.